Hey, how's it going, guys? As I said in the previous one, it's gonna be weird putting out these videos and then remembering back because I'm recording these on, I think this is, what's this? Today's the 17th, when this Versatility chapter came out, and I'm probably not gonna put this one out until like the 26th or something, so the time this comes out, it'll already be close to the next chapter, but it's a fun extra thing to put in this video. But as I mentioned in the one that I, at this point, would have put out, days prior, but I haven't even I just finished it and the date is still in the future of the Natsu versus Ace one. I'm gonna do the Erza versus Zoro one, and in the Natsu versus Ace one, I mentioned this one was, I think, gonna be a little bit more to talk about, because at the end of the day, even with the Natsu versus Ace one, they downplayed Natsu pretty heavy. Like, Natsu's feats were a lot bigger than what they displayed. And they didn't really even talk about the fact that Ace being able to turn into fire is irrelevant because Natsu can touch fire like it's physical, like, material, because, you know, he's a fire dragon slayer. It's part of his abilities. But Natsu still won. Now this one was annoying because whereas they still mentioned some big things for Natsu, they completely screwed Erza on this one. And I mentioned in the previous video too that I'd only watched these once. I haven't watched them since when they initially came out and initially watched them. And I remember where I was when this video came out, because I remember watching it and then I was like, man, this was bad. This was a really bad match. And the point in time where this came out, they didn't mention a lot of Erza's best feats. They like finished, I think it was like halfway in the Tartarus arc, and even talk about some of the crazy feats that she has. But yeah, let's go into this, and then I'll go over exactly like where I stand on my opinion on this. And I'm going to use obviously Erza at the time of when this came out, not Erza, you know, right now. I mean, even right now, Zoro has Enma. It's not gonna matter. Erza's gonna dominate him. But let's go into this and really talk about it. You can tell those parts where I really want to say, and then I'm kind of like hesitating, don't want to say it, or I'm like, and then no, I'm just gonna say it. I mean, obviously Erza is ridiculously more powerful than Zoro. So let's watch this, and I'll just, you know, comment on like Erza's stuff.
Erza Scarlet grew up in a small rural town called Rosemary Village.
I think they get, like, relatively, from what I remember, they get Erza's backstory decently well. I mean, Erza's backstory was already sad before the cult attack, the Beach of the Worship Zero.
There it is. Young Erza was tortured.
Like, Erza's backstory was already sad before that. That's how she, you know, was an orphan at Rosemary when Irene left her.
He actually gave Erza her last name, Scarlet, after her red hair. She and her buddies swore they'd escape.
Like, when they go into like the basic origins of like the characters, that's usually as far as like the Death Battle guys seem to go when it comes to anime that isn't obvious that they've watched before. That's one of the things that you can definitely notice if you watch some of their anime ones. They probably haven't watched as many, and so they'll make like very bad, like, small mess ups just describing characters. Yeah, Erza's, people forget a lot about like the general idea of Erza's whole setup. Erza is attack and defense variety, and it's just how she can like use it in different scenarios and different situations. Most of Erza's armors are very basic. Like a good chunk are just like, oh, an element resistance one. I was gonna say an element damage, like halving thing, but it just sounds worse. But, you know, cuts elemental damage by a percentage. And then like here, yeah, Heaven's Wheel, it's like, okay, she just has a lot of swords. Here's just defensive. Singular strike increases, fire resistance. Most of Erza's armors are pretty basic. Even her Nakagami armor, it's basically an anti-magic armor. She's an anti-wizard while she's wearing it, essentially. Like, Erza doesn't have like much when it comes to complicated armors. Like, the most she has right now, and just the basic idea, is her clear heart armor, and then like having enchanted swords currently. Like how she has you know, the Natsu and Gray sword with her Belsarion sword. Yeah, she just pretty much stops doing any additional defense boosts, and then everything beyond her base kind of stats goes to attack and defense.
All sorts of magical attacks, even mixing and matching weapons and armors to better her chances.
Like Erza is all about like how smart she is with her versatility. When it comes to kind of like how she attacks, she is like a warrior version that kind of like Lucy goes about. Like Lucy's is utility and the fact she's very smart. Erza's is, you know, how she has all this kind of prep and then how she can implement that. Whereas Lucy's more of like on the fly. And one thing you have to remember about that is that cube has the whole Tartarus cube had its own gravity for each side, which means the center has gravity pushing it on all sides. And Erza went through that center point and then came out the other side. And, I mean, like, and then they, like, this is impressive, but Erza already sits with stuff that would put her faster than light. Like, you already have Natsu dodging Sting's roar at like point blank, and Sting's element is Dragon Light. It is superior to normal light. And then you have like casual, like way earlier Gildarts like outspeeding light in Ice Trail. And there's no way that Erza at the point of Alvarez wouldn't have stats that would say that she could do that too. Like, obviously it's a very big underplay of like Erza's abilities. Like they use like that gun feat to make it seem like she's only supersonic. It'd be like using it'd be like legitimately trying to use that feat in One Piece where it's like the Gazelle guy in Kaido's army. I think they're finished. I'm gonna pause it and finish what I was saying. But that's like how in Kaido's army you have that Gazelle guy, and I think he said he ran like 300 kilometers per hour or something. And obviously like One Piece characters at that point, because it was like Zoro and Luffy, they're way faster than that. Like people dodging lightning like just fine. Like they're way faster than 300 kilometers per hour. Like I'm not gonna act like that feat somehow like would override like what's more consistent beforehand, but like it's more consistent to show like really crazy like speed feats at the point of like Alvarez, like when you see what characters at that level are really capable of. Like Ward sending a tree 2,000 kilometers in at a speed to the point that Lucy was surprised Natsu got sick, or the fact that you know, like I said, Gildarts and Natsu earlier, like when you will get Wall's big ass cannon going 400 kilometers in a couple seconds, just darting over to Magnolia from like the shores off Argion. There's a lot of really good speed feats, and Erza definitely at that point would stick well up like to that level. So they very much underplayed Erza's speed in this. And even though, like I said, Erza's best like straight like display feat at the time, you know, jumping into the meter, she has stuff that can kind of place her up a little bit higher now after she almost beat she was close to beating Laxus. Like she pushed near Laxus's edge, but this was before the meteor feat. But you still have a lot of really big feats from Erza, and people that are below Erza, like you know, just talking about like I'm trying to think of something like casual attacks from Makarov. And Erza had already been somewhere that had kind of like passed off Makarov in Grand Magic Games, because you know, he talked about when Erza went to go slash Kagura that he had trouble following her sword, and then obviously Erza keeping up with Spriggan level people is beyond what Zoro could even come close to. Like they literally could just show some feats from Brandish, or the like any of the big Spriggan. They didn't even have to go show any of the big ones. Literally, they could have just showed Brandish casually reshaping islands, and it's like, oh yeah, this you know, this character is well beyond like Zoro when it comes to like just straight up power. But yeah, let's go into the fight itself.
All right, the combatants are
oh wait, I gotta skip their ad. I think they're doing one of the blue aprons. Oh wait, no, I already skipped through it. I have said before, I do like when they have like a plot as to why these characters are fighting. And Erza going after Zoro would make sense. Zoro's a criminal. Erza is like super about like, you know, justice and being like not like full justice, but Erza's a very kind of like a righteous person.
Your one I'm looking for. Come peacefully and you won't be harmed.
Sorry.
Like, the thing is, like, Zoro level people aren't even remotely close for, like, Erza as an opponent. Like, Zoro wouldn't even last against Ikusa Tsunagi. And sorry to any One Piece fans listening, but Ikusa Tsunagi has fodder to current, like, base level people for Fairy Tail. But Ikusa Tsunagi would destroy Zoro.
Whoa. What?
You're coming with me.
Like, Erza wouldn't even honestly need to get in her black armor, her black wing armor. She could just stay in Heaven's Wheel and just keeps dropping swords on him. Or just go, like, if she just went straight into, like, Clear Heart and just blitz Zoro and cut him down. Like, Zoro's not weak. Like, it's not like he's a weak character. But Erza is so much more powerful. And this is just talking about Erza, like I said at the time. This isn't talking about Erza now. Like, Erza now, she would completely, like, just sideswipe Zoro. Like, that's not how I fight. Erza now, like, after a fight with Laxus, way more powerful. Like, legitimately, she wouldn't even push like, Zoro wouldn't even push Erza to put on armor to her fairy. She would never even need to put on that armor at all to fight Zoro.
Fool. Nothing is worse than the loss of life.
And if Zoro somehow pushed Erza to get to her Clear Heart, Erza would absolutely, like, just blitz and have him cut before that fight's over. Like, this isn't a fight. I'm sorry to any One Piece fans, but logically this wouldn't be a fight even at the point where this came out. If I'll pause it near the end when this is over and give, like, talk about kind of like at least some justice for Zoro at the end. In reality, not like the death battle. Like, legitimately, it would end here. Like, even if it got to this point, Zoro would get chopped in half. Like, Erza just has so many more ridiculous feats, and she just has, like, a higher level of precision with her swords. Like, there's a part where she's literally fighting with swords, like, she's wielding between her toes. And even Erza without any form of buffs, like, very beginning Erza, like, way early on, Erza at the very start of the series could cut steel like it was nothing without any armor increasements. And I remember, obviously, like, Zoro is way stronger now, but I remember how much of a big of a gap Zoro, like, had, what was it, back in Skypiea, like, getting over that. And it's like, even at the start, Erza was more powerful. But, I mean, like, if you compared even this Zoro, because this Zoro was, I'm trying to remember exactly where One Piece was when this came out, because this was somewhere, this was, like, well into Alvarez. I think this was during Whole Cake Island, so Pika already happened. And if you already, even if you compare that, like, the strongest Erza that Zoro could even take is maybe I'd say maybe Grand Magic Games. Like, he's not taking Tartaros Erza, and anything beyond that, Erza just dominates. Like, it's not a fight. But, like, this, it's always a really weird thing when it comes to the existence of this one, because there's a lot of people that watch Death Battle. Like, I don't really like their videos unless it's a character I specifically like. I won't watch their video. I'll wait until the full fight comes out, and I'll skip to the end, and I'll see, okay, what's the next one. And if they do a character that I like, then I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll see how it goes, just out of curiosity. And usually if they pick a character I like, I want to see, like, what character they're fighting. So sometimes they at least get my interest to a degree. And it's, I don't know, outside of that, like, I don't really care about what they're kind of putting out for their videos, but I don't know, it's kind of like a weird spot, because most people watch them, and I think for me, when I watch them, I'm more of like, man, I hope they don't mess this up so people think this is how it would go. I think that's kind of like the weird idea that I was gonna, like, be like trying to, like, dance around and get to, but that kind of idea, because, like, like I said, that with Natsu versus Ace, at least, like, they realize, like, obviously Natsu wins, it's not a fight. The Gray versus S-Death one was bad, especially because, like, you literally can't hurt Gray with ice unless you are a more powerful ice user that's absurdly faster than him, and S-Death is neither of those things, because otherwise Gray's literally just eating her ice and then getting more powerful and then he just completely powers up to being way over her. It's bad. But Erza versus Zoro is obviously way more of a mainstream one, because it's two characters that are, both very popular sword users from two very popular series, and even inside the series where they're popular, they're two of the most popular. And it's a fight that for a long time was mentioned a lot. Like, Erza used to be the one below Zoro. I remember when Fairy Tail characters were significantly weaker than One Piece characters. Like, the only kind of characters that we had for a while that were like a big danger to like upper One Piece characters was like Zeref and Acnologian. I remember it was like when Acnologian and Zeref first came out, because some of the other kind of like guys I would talk to about like, who would win in this fight, having some extra kind of like flex for my fandom. And so like, we had characters you can beat higher level up ones. But I remember when Fairy Tail was way lower, to where, Erza versus Zoro was like, Erza would get closer and closer, and then just massive jumps and arcs, and Erza's just been league stronger than Zoro and taking even bigger strides forward than that. Like, recently she almost beat Laxus, and like, again, Laxus versus Zoro, Laxus just kind of like swings his fist and hits Zoro, and Zoro's done. Like, Laxus is so much more powerful than Zoro. So like, you carry Erza even further up, where Zoro's still up in feet soon. Like, his fight for like his big fight in Wano hasn't happened yet, so he can get an upgrade, but I doubt it's going to even be close to an upgrade that can deal with Erza. More than likely, we'll see. Again, I highly doubt it. But I mean, this one, really just look at Erza. Even like Erza's feats, just in specifically her fight with Irene, being able to keep up with Irene, being able to hurt Irene, like damage her and break the meteor. And if you really think like, oh, I don't know about that, like, imagine Zoro against Irene. That's all you really have to do. Take that fight, switch Erza and Zoro, because the fight happened at the time. And it still applies now, of Erza versus Irene. Or even honestly Agio. Like, Zoro couldn't take Agio either. But obviously Erza beat... Erza was close, but Agio like countered the hell out of her magic. But if compare Erza versus Irene, put Zoro in there. Do you honestly see, like, anybody who's read One Piece and Fairy Tail, do you honestly see Zoro doing anything against Irene? I don't. Irene would toy with him and just be like, put the swords down, like, shut up, and she'd probably just smack him. Like, absolutely dominate. Like, it's one-sided. I've said dominating a couple times, but absolutely just annihilate the other side. So this one was one that I always was just like not a fan of, because when it came out, I knew that there were going to be people that use this as like the reference for the fight. If somebody said who would win between these two, and they would mention this, I'd hope that if anybody tried to now, would be like, oh, well, that video is way older, let's try and get like some new information kind of guesses. So I at least would have that. But yeah, it's not even close. It wasn't actually close when this came out, and it's not even close more so now. Like, Erza is just ridiculously more powerful than Zoro. Again, it's not a big deal. Like, you can like One Piece more, you can like Fairy Tail more. Power levels are more of like just kind of like an extra hobby of the media, of this medium of manga and stuff that people like to do. So if you don't care about that, it doesn't really matter. But it is a fun extra thing. But some people, from what I've seen, wanted to see me react to this and kind of talk about it. I had seen it once before. I mentioned that. I had seen it once before. I'd never watched it since. But yeah, this fight wouldn't even last this long. It wouldn't even get this far. Zoro wouldn't even be able to get Erza into this armor. Like, he would be lucky to get her past whatever armor she's wearing when they meet. But anyway, other than that, though, comment below, thumbs up the video, prefer the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. Further than that, I appreciate everybody's already subscribed. Thank you all for listening. Bye.